This is a controversial topic, right? We do have these proton pumps that are creating hydrochloric stomach acid for us all the time. There can be certain instances in which we would have lower stomach acid output, certain autoimmune conditions, if you have H. pylori, if you have bile reflux, and a couple of other cases in which you could have more basic stomach acid. So it's not as acidic as it should be. There are some of these at-home tests that people will suggest, like either drink baking soda and water and see how long it takes you to belch, or people will say take hydrochloric acid tablets, and then when you start feeling burning, that tells you how much you should take. So people will say start with 1 and then take 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, and if you start feeling burning at 8, 7 is your dose. Highly controversial. You definitely don't want to be poking the bear as far as stomach acid goes if it's not something you're positive of. The best test you can request from your gastroenterologist is a Bravo endoscopy, which will check for your stomach acid pH level. So you can ask your gastroenterologist if they can test your stomach pH. We do really want to maintain a specific pH in our hydrochloric acid because it's one of the first line defenses in our immune system. So there are certainly cases in which stomach acid can be low, and there are certainly cases where you do want to support it appropriately or address the issue. If it's because of H. pylori, eradicate the H. pylori because you're symptomatic at that point. But if it's just a guess, these things are actually quite dangerous. This hydrochloric acid tablet test can actually cause erosive stomach ulcers. So you don't want to just willy-nilly be taking hydrochloric acid capsules. It can be super dangerous for you. And you don't want to make your gut too acidic and too acidified because there are certain acid-loving microbes that can then flourish in that. So you really don't want to be poking the bear there. Your body really keeps itself in a fine balance. It absolutely can become imbalanced. I am not saying that it can't, but you really don't want to just be trialing some of these things. Also, for those with methane SIBO, if you have been positive on either a small bowel aspirate during an endoscopy or a breath test for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, not a stool test. That's not a good way to test for SIBO. So if you've been told based on a stool test you have SIBO, that is not a way to diagnose SIBO. But if you have been told you have methane SIBO, which is more associated with constipation because archaea, a type of microbe in your gut, might be making excess amounts of this methane gas, and that will slow down your digestion, can cause a lot of gas, bloating, constipation, distension. If you have been told you have methane SIBO, hydrochloric acid will worsen your methane SIBO. I'm going to get really nerdy with you all for a second. So with methane gas, there is 1 molecule of carbon, 4 molecules of hydrogen. And if you're taking hydrochloric acid, you are literally possibly feeding into this. I have seen my methane SIBO patients have worse symptoms because, again, they're just told you probably have low stomach acid, so just try taking HCl. And then they're like, it made me more constipated and more bloated. So again, because you're feeding those archaea who are making this methane gas more hydrogen, it can worsen those symptoms. So I personally almost never, ever, ever use betaine HCl with my patients unless I really know that that's what they need. But it's a rarity. So I think it's used very, very liberally, and people are told to do these at-home tests, and I don't think they're safe.